Architectural blueprints offer a map of stable, predictable rules. For decades, literary inquiry sought a similar precision, looking for the laws that govern human expression. This was the ambition of structuralism. Its practitioners aimed to bring the exactness of a laboratory to the study of literature, folklore, and myth. The movement operates on a single premise. No cultural artifact can be understood in isolation. Every poem or ritual functions as a component within a broader, generating system. Eventually, a counter-movement known as Deconstruction emerged. It utilized structuralism's own analytical methods to search for the points where language fails to remain stable. These theorists argued that language is characterized by an infinite deferral of meaning. In this view, a text inevitably subverts its own surface logic. Understanding why modern theory views language as a state of constant change requires us to first reverse engineer the rigid blueprint that attempted to fix it in place. The blueprint was designed by Ferdinand de Saussure. He advocated for a synchronic approach, analyzing language at a single moment in time rather than tracking its historical development. This network represents langue. It is the abstract, shared system of grammatical rules that every member of the language community possesses. Within that system, we find parole. This describes the individual speech event, the specific, isolated application of the rules. Saussure identified the mechanics of the linguistic sign, noting that a word lacks any natural or physical connection to a real-world object. As this note splits, the top half displays the signifier. This is the sound image, the conventional acoustic construction of a word. The bottom half resolves into the signified. This is the allowable concept or semantic value that the sound image represents. This model demonstrates that meaning is purely relational. A sign possesses value only through its difference from other signs within the system. We understand what a sign is because we can identify everything it is not. Meaning, therefore, is a mechanical construct. It is governed by a set of hidden, objective rules, rather than a natural link between language and reality. Later theorists expanded this microscopic linguistic grammar to decode broader cultural narratives and global folklore. Anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss adopted this logic to analyze cross-cultural mythology. Lévi-Strauss treated ancient myths like a language, searching for the underlying structural linkages that allowed them to function. He broke these stories down into mythemes, the minimal units of a myth, acting exactly like the sounds forming a spoken word. These units are structured by binary oppositions. Meaning is generated through the tension between concepts like nature and culture, or youth and age. Lévi-Strauss believed these binary pairings revealed the universal ways in which the human mind organizes all perceived reality. By reducing global myths into mathematical pairs, structuralism claimed to have mapped the fundamental architecture of human thought. Roland Barthes applied this systematic decoding directly to sophisticated literary fiction. Barthes dissected literature using the lexi, which he defined as the minimal unit of reading. This analysis led Barthes to identify 5 specific literary codes, the systems readers use to extract meaning from the raw data of a text. The pro-eiretic code sequences actions into a logical progression, while the hermeneutic code manages reader desire by raising and delaying the answers to narrative puzzles. Additional codes link character traits to cultural knowledge and overarching themes to external reality. For the structuralist, the author acts as a rearranger of these pre-existing codes rather than a source of original meaning. The text functions as a decipherable machine, a construct that runs on a predictable, internalized code. This pursuit of objective certainty was challenged by Jacques Derrida, who identified a flaw in the structuralist logic. This pendulum represents logocentrism. It is the bias in Western thought that assumes written language contains an unchanging, self-evident central truth. This worldview relies on the idea of an authenticated meaning, a correct interpretation validated by an institution or the author's intent. Derrida observed that a signifier never actually reaches a final signified concept. In a dictionary, one word is defined by other words, which are themselves defined by more words. Because every sign refers only to other signs, there is no fixed anchor for meaning. Any attempt to establish a final truth eventually reveals an internal contradiction where the language undermines itself. When this logic is applied to the prior model, the central anchor shatters. The rigid rules of language are replaced by the free play of language. This shift removes the privilege of the author's intended message. The text is no longer a closed container for a specific thought. Since language is a shifting system, meaning is perpetually deferred. A sign can only point toward an indefinite chain of other signs. To many traditional critics, this loss of a stable center felt like the arrival of professional nihilism and anarchy. However, deconstruction demonstrated that the structuralist search for objective interpretation was an impossible goal. These two frameworks offered different paths. On the left, structuralism seeks an underlying grammar, looking for an objective blueprint. On the right, deconstruction seeks out the disorder and the subversive, shifting nature of expression. Opponents often argue that deconstructive readings are willfully obscure or that they threaten the stability of the literary academy. Despite these critiques, the approach serves to highlight our own cognitive biases when we interpret a text. It prevents us from assuming that any single critical reading can ever claim absolute, unquestionable truth. The shift encourages us to move beyond the search for a single, ultimate meaning hidden beneath the surface of a work. Literature is not a closed, static message. It is a living space where ideas are perpetually being constructed and dismantled. By recognizing the inherent play of language, we see every text as an open-ended construct. In the playground of the text, the journey of meaning continues indefinitely.